Hey YouTube, Believe in Better Hair, 14th of December 2012. This is part 7 of the documentary that I'm doing on Cliffstone, Bob Dean, Project Camelot and the Human Unite.We want the truth. So here's part 7, guys. Hope you're following it and taking it all in. It's getting even more interesting now. And like I said, if you don't believe in this stuff and you think it's crazy and you think I'm crazy, then carry on with your everyday lives. But if this triggers something in your head, then keep following, because you know the truth is out there. Continue.
I agree with Sergeant Major here. My biggest fear is if these rogue groups are going ahead and coming to agreements with not only our nation but other nations, then that's a very dangerous situation because of the wrong ones to be working with.
Okay, and now, this is going on, isn't it?
Unfortunately, I believe to a degree, yes it is, because the ones that really are not evil, the heads of the various cultures out there, to give us the technology. They know that we are not spiritually heightened to the degree where we use it for the right reasons. When we go out into space, defense is one thing. But if you build your forces to where they become offensive, then it's to impose your will over others. And the technology that they are giving us gives us the capability to go ahead and fill in space a offensive posture. So anytime we want to go ahead and make it look like it's E.T. doing it, we could make it look like E.T.'s imposing their will over the peoples of the world. And with that technology that we have acquired from the rogue groups, yes. And I agree with Sergeant Major. This is really, really dangerous.
Okay. And at this moment, though, there are certain governments, with some of these governments, some of the governments that are actually growing into superpowers at this time, China, for example. My understanding is there are 2 rogue groups that are now dealing with China. And at least one of those groups is, quote-unquote, some relatively new guys that have come on and given...
Just going to interrupt it there, guys. It said about the Chinese there, and you know my work on the DUMBs, which are deep underground military bases. It's supposed to be a hideout for all the special ops and the elites and the rich people of the world to go. The Chinese have been doing underground bases for quite some time, and theirs are unique. When I say unique, I mean they interlink throughout the country. They've been in operation. They have in excess of 2.7 million people working on these underground bases in China. If you want to do your own homework on it, then I suggest you do. It's another interesting fact that maybe you guys might want to check out. But anyway, I'll continue with this. It's just another little hint for you. Peace out.
And some new technology. Do you know about that?
That very well could be the case. When I got out that Catalog 57, that doesn't mean that that's all that's out there. Edgar Mitchell believes that there may be literally hundreds of thousands of civilizations out there.
Okay.
And what we have right now is the fact that on this planet, which Sergeant Major made a very good point, that there are some that are hostile and look really down on us when I state that. We have rogue nations. And some of those rogue nations are very much a threat to the tranquility of the world. And if they achieve the technology we don't want them to achieve, then they could very well be the very
governments out there that are also being contacted, just as individuals are being contacted, governments are being contacted, are they not?
Yes.
Okay, and so this kind of dynamic is, we don't just have a political situation that could become unstable with, say, Iran or North Korea or China or Pakistan, but the idea here being that they may be making agreements with some off-world visitors that the ones we made agreements with, the U.S. that is, don't get along with. And there's also issues within the U.S. itself, within the U.S. military. The Army's got one group that they're talking to. The Air Force is talking to another group. And the Navy is talking to another group. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but you only have a small nucleus of people who control all of the information. And it may not be military personnel that is doing this. And it may not be your elected officials.
Sure.
And that's a scary situation.
Okay, and that's also true. We've got a military right now in the U.S. that's very discontent. And Bob, you can speak to this as well. You've got a son who's been working for these people. He must hear all kinds of things. And they're being told to do certain things that they know is not in the best interest necessarily of the United States, for example. Is that right?
Let me tell you something. It's not easy to say that there are the good guys and there are the bad guys, and we're in the middle. That's true to a certain extent, and it's been true for the last 10,000 years, but it isn't particularly true today, because a third party has entered the game. An advanced culture, God knows who they are and what they are, but they're higher in the what they call it, the hierarchy. These guys at the top of the hierarchy are primarily spiritual in nature, and they have intervened. And they have said, listen, we've had enough of this bullshit where you've warred among yourselves, you've had these clan disagreements and blah, 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 blah. This family and that culture and that group, that's going to cease. Because the human race has been in the damn middle for so long now that they've reached a critical point in their evolution and their development. And we're going to have to see that the human race survives and makes this awkward, painful transition into a new race, into a new species. And this higher element, this higher spiritual element in the hierarchy has intervened. And they have literally said, Carrie, knock off the bullshit. We're not going to have any more of this. There's not going to be any more planetary wars. We've had enough of that. We've lost too many millions of people over the years. We're going to control this carefully. We're going to give them an encouragement. We're going to give them an opportunity. And we're going to assist them to make this awkward transition into a new race. Now, the only reason I'm hopeful now, when I used to go through this, I was very depressed and very cynical, because I'd seen so damn much of the knockdown, drag-out brawls, not only among our own people, but among some of these guys. And then I found out that there is this third party now that's involved, that couldn't care less about the clan disputes and the family disagreements and all that. All they care is to see that the human species makes this awkward transition into a new race and can reach out and take our rightful place in space and go to the stars where we belong, for God's sake.
But that's their intention. That's what you've been told they want to do, because you were taken off-world by them.
Yes, I was, and they've given me encouragement. Okay. And they've showed me the future, Carrie, and the future is glorious. We are going to make it, and we're going to look back at this awkward period, this blackness that we've been through for the last century or two, and we're going to look back like students of history and say, my God, look what they went through. Look what they did to each other. We're going to look back from the future into this particular time and place, and we're going to say, how in the world did they pull that off? Here they are killing hundreds of millions of people in these wars, butchering each other. This has got to cease. We can't let that race off the planet until they evolve and grow and mature where they can be safe.
Okay, but Bob, that rationale, when you've got these races, off-planet races, who have been warring with each other for eons, So maybe there's a new guy on the block.
Let me tell you
Maybe
something.
that new guy is orchestrating things here. But actually, I'm going to sit over here and I'm going to be suspicious of even.
Well, it's all right to be suspicious, and I know where you're coming from.
Childhood's end.
I was talking to Joe Farrell not too long ago at another conference, and Joe Farrell has written The Cosmic War. And The Cosmic War is a true story of a war between interplanetary intelligences. And they literally damn near destroyed each other. They destroyed a planet beyond Mars, for God's sake, in our own solar system. But that crap has got to cease, and I have had the opportunity to meet guys from the higher level who said, we're not going to allow that to happen anymore. We're going to give you a chance to make it. And the only reason I'm hopeful, and I told you this privately earlier, is that I have seen the future, and there is a future for the human race, and it's beautiful.
Okay, and I appreciate that, okay, and I would agree with you, and I think a lot of people listening to this, who will listen, will agree with you. That's why we're all here, that's what we're working for, but the work is still to be done, and what I want to do is keep eyes on the ground right now, and I want to talk about the idea of what's right before people, because this is 2012, we're going into 2013, and some of these years are very crucial years, okay, as you say, these are going to kind of be the years in which the transition happens. So
It's happening right now.
exactly. So what I want to talk about here is, first of all, yes, you have a lot of bad kids in the class, okay, and those involve the Illuminati, some of whom are basically being run by certainly groups of reptilians, certainly a group of Anunnaki that may not have our best interest in mind. They'd like to clear the planet. They've got big plans, and they've been working on those plans for a very long time. And both of you must have been face to face with that agenda.
Their agendas exist because they exist, and they've had some of their own personal agendas for eons of time. But their plans for our future don't mean diddly squat, because there are these higher developed cultures out there that have now intervened, and they're going to see that the human race is going to be allowed to make it.
Okay, and you've said that, and I agree. But the thing is, the idea here is not that somebody come in, organize the schoolyard for us, and then they go off on their own business, and then we're left to deal with it. The idea is that we learn to walk on our own.
We organize a schoolyard ourselves.
Okay, so there's a great importance for the human race to take sovereignty, to take their rightful place as members of the galactic community.
Once they
and to
understand
recognize who we are.
what they understand who they are, yes.
That we have. Okay?
The human race is precious. The human species is so unique that they told me when I was with them for 6 weeks, I was asking them question after question after question. I found that they were as interested in me as I was interested in them. And I asked them why. And they says, you human beings don't grasp who you really are. You have a
Okay. So, I'm going to stop it there for part 7. You can catch up with part 8. I told you that Bob Dean had some extravagant views. It's up to you. You make your own judgment and your own beliefs, and see whether you can look into his eyes and see whether you think he's lying, or whether you think he's warped, or whether you think he's telling the truth and trying to believe him better. But that's it for part 7, guys. I think it's part 7, isn't it? But catch up on part 8. Peace out. Believe him better.